is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Michel Dudignan has outscored Ove Trangrade in each of the last 4 rounds. That has cut it down to 2 points. Ove has been here before in previous seasons. He's watched his lead get whittled away by the axe of the Frenchman with his blindingly quick pace. Only 3 tracks can offer him a chance to change the momentum of this achingly slow swing, and the first of those is here at Silverstone. Is this the place where things finally tip and Michel will leave leading the championship? Or can Ove finally stop his tree from being felled? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 10 of the Lotus 49 World Cup, and you'll see it all live here on the global SimRacing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Johan Van Veld. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Ducky Beard. Johan, I'm a bit sad we won't get to see these cars race the much more simple Silverstone that existed in '67, but this is still a great course to watch these cars whip around.
Yeah, I feel you, Joe. I hope that one day we'll see these Lotus machines drive around the original Silverstone circuit again, but until then, the historic layout is probably the closest we get to recreate the 1967 British Grand Prix, which was of course won by Lotus 49. And that layout from 1967 was actually the background of the very first Formula 1 Grand Prix as well, in which Giuseppe Farina won in his Alfa Romeo. This high-speed track, as so many other racetracks around the world, had to be tamed throughout the years and saw numerous track changes in the 80s and 90s. The historic layout we see today differs from the normal Grand Prix layout in 2 locations, Phil and Abbey. In these corners, the angle of the corner has been decreased, so you can take them with much higher speeds. The drivers have to lap this 5-kilometer circuit 20 times in the bid for victory. They have to tackle countless high-speed corners where bravery and skill are required in equal measures. And to see how this looks like from the driver's point of view, let's hop on board the GSRC Lotus 49 for a lap around Silverstone.
Alright, we're in the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around Silverstone. Coming up to Cops, this can sometimes be a place to pass, but it'll be tricky. The tough part will be getting the power down, especially if you slip a little wide onto the AstroTurf. Managing the grip will be important. Switch sides now to set up for the entry to the Maggots-Beckett sequence. As you enter the first left-hander, you'll be slowing and braking, which will make this very much a single-file affair. You'll be busy all through here with little squirts of the power and stabs of the brakes, always turning. Set yourself up for the final right-hander and try to get on the power as soon as you feel the grip return. Chapel is going to be especially tricky because the rear will want to break away. It's important to get as good of a run as you can, with the hanger straight being the longest flat-out portion of the track. This sets up one of your best opportunities to pass into stow. Expect some difficulty in keeping the car tucked into the apex though. There's a big blind rise that loves to cause understeer. From there, you've got a short burst before Vale. In this layout, instead of a tight chicane, it's a sweeping entry, offering much less of a chance to overtake. Club really works best as a double apex bend, so try not to stay too far inside. Opening up a straighter line on the exit will pay dividends. Then comes Abbey. Again, this historic version takes out the chicane, so it's back to its old scary fast kink. A quick lift before getting back to the power will do. The switchback across the track can make it tough to line up for bridge though. Drivers will be taking different lines coming out of here and into Priory. That makes attacking and defending kind of sketchy. Now we're into the slowest, most technical section of the track. Brooklands can be especially frustrating. Once again, it's a bit of a compromise in the line with it leading directly into the next corner. Lastly, there's the long hairpin of Luffield. Trying to square off your exit here will be important in order to give yourself speed for the pit straight. You're not totally done yet since Woodcote won't be completely flat out, but if you kept it on the track, you've now finished a lap around Silverstone.
You see a lap around Silverstone with a few of the slower bits slightly straightened out. Now, obviously, we've been following this championship for a while, and it is getting very, very tight. So, looking at the points, I mentioned it is only 2 separating Michel and Ove. Here's the interesting thing. Michel has 4 wins, Ove has 1, and that one came, of all places, at Talladega. If you missed that and you're wondering, Talladega, yes, go back and watch it. It was round 2 this season. Nicola Cocci back there is actually mathematically out of it. So is Dave Price. Even though they are 40 points back because of the drop points, they cannot manage to overtake Ove or Michelle. Dave Price, of course, still fighting for that 3rd place in the championship. Rob Olenek jumps himself up a couple there with no drop points as well, but jumping up into the top 5. And then, of course, we have the F2 championship. Johan, what's the amateur course looking like?
Yeah, well, the same driver is still in the lead in the Formula 2 Championship. Marcellus Breuning has currently gathered 59 points so far this season. But the same thing that we said last week, the gap between Marcellus and David Rossi in P2 is decreasing. In the last 5 races, Marcellus has only beaten David Rossi once. So every race, it just gets chewed down little bit by little bit, and David Rossi is only 11 points behind Marcellus Breuning at this point of the championship. Hideki Koifisto, one of the candidates for the Formula 2 title last season, currently sits in P3, 19 points behind the leader, only 1 point in front of Alex Cameron, who at Spa-Francorchamps gained 1 position, overtaking Andrew Eng.
There's also a Constructors' Championship. It's done a little bit differently if you're used to modern Formula 1. This is by the nation instead of by make of car. Of course, the UK, they're leading up at the top between Claridge and Price. You'll notice that Claridge didn't show up. He's not been having the greatest of season, so he's basically just here for the wins in the final rounds. Now, Ove is in 2nd, basically being the only one to contribute, and Dudignon with Chester's there helping just a little bit for France. Cocci, the only one for Italy. Usually we get a few more drivers contributing points there, but not this season. And the U.S., with a lot of drivers, is back there in 5th, trying to help out. And if you've never watched the Lotus 49 World Cup, it's mostly pretty straightforward races, but just in case, why don't we go back to Johan to educate you on how these will play out.
This is the Lotus 49 Championship, a 12-round championship, and today we are at round 10. 2 watermarks, that means that there's 2 drop weeks. In other words, the 2 worst results of each driver will be removed at the end of the season. The race distance today here at Silverstone is 20 laps with open setups, which means that the drivers can turn their knobs just to their liking to really tackle this high-speed circuit. And the scoring is in such a way that 40 points will go today to the victor.
And if you enjoy this sort of vintage racing, of course, you can find more of it here on the iRacing Esports Network. There is a button that if it looks red and it says subscribe, that means you aren't subscribed. Click that. You can see all kinds of official racing here from iRacing on the iRacing Esports Network. Qualifying is underway, and surprisingly, actually, Ove Trangrade on the first lap is leading the times, but they have 2 laps to put down, so he could still be overtaken. He's just coming around the final corner. This is Woodcote that he's coming through right now. Let's see if he can improve on this 140.3, which is actually a relatively big gap. And no, he cannot improve. The big one that we want to watch is Michel Dudignon. He's coming around for his second lap. He messed up a little bit on his first one. So let's see what the Frenchman can do. He's about 0.5 behind, half a second. He does improve, but he's behind. But he is on the front row, and that'll be critical. No, he's not. Mick Claridge tops him just in the final moments with only 2 minutes to go. And on his second lap, he beats him by 1/10 of a second. This is going to get very interesting here today, Johan.
Yeah, talking tennis terms, advantage for Ove Trangrade here, because he's 2 positions in front of Dudignon at this point. Looking through the standings to see which drivers are still on their final lap. Sergio Macias at this moment. Number 1 driver, that means that he's the highest placed iRating driver. Normally we're used to Michel Dudignon having that honor, but this time it is the Iberian driver who is the one with the highest iRating. He's currently sitting in 8th position with a 141.4, 1.5 seconds behind Ove Trangrade. He's coming through left field now. Going on the throttle once again, just a little corner to the right to finish his second lap time. Struggling with the real difficulty here, tracking out completely, kicking over the line. He actually improves quite a bit, a 140.9, and that's 4th position for Sergio Macias after Ove Trangrade, Mick Claridge, and Michel Dudignon.
Yeah, good to see him making the transfer over from Lotus 79 into Lotus 49. Very different cars, despite being the same maker and separated by just a few years. Telmo Almiral going to come around. He's currently sitting in 18th. Is this lap better? It is. And that is going to leave him 18th, unfortunately. So that is it for Telmo Almiral. Anybody else trying to finish their laps? Seeing if we've got Antonio Arcidiacono has already completed his 2. And indeed, that's everybody's qualifying done. So let's go through our starting grid, which is a big one here today. Thankfully did not split though, so everybody is here together. Ove Trangrade up at the top with Mick Claridge going to be in second. Michel Dudignan starting in third, still fighting for the championship. He's got to try to get ahead of Ove. Sergio Macias will start fourth. Rob Olenek will start row 3 in 5th place with Nicola Kochi in 6th. And Dave Price, winner of 2 races this season, will be P7. Marco Kika starts in 8th with Jamie Hall starting 9th, and Marco Arcidiacono in 10th.
P11 we can find Angelica Pavlovsky, and she starts the race just in front of Billy Bob Wright. Paul Foster is on the inside of row 7 with Gary Teal just behind him. David Rossi, the runner-up at this point in the Formula 2 Championship, he starts the race in P15 just in front of Daniel Cedro. Philip Urquhart starts in 17th. Just in front of Telmo Almiral, and the last 2 drivers in the top 20 are Antonino Arcidiacono and Marcellus Breuning in P20.
Francisco Gutierrez starts 21st with Simon Shaw in 22nd. Then they've got Scott Green, P23. Matt Muggleton here in 24th. Daniel Blackmon 25th, and Alex Cameron starting 26th. It is going to be a pretty full field, as we said, and hopefully that doesn't affect the lap traffic doesn't affect the lead race too much, but they will come upon slower cars certainly over this 20-lap race. And you can see one of the tricky parts of this circuit is the curved front stretch, since the start-finish line is very, very close to that final corner. And in these cars, getting off the line, they're going to have to really struggle to get the power down if you are on that curve, because that first gear has a lot of oomph under it and very little grip underneath the car, very little downforce. As the rest of them get out to the starting grid, just waiting on Antonio and Daniel Blackmon, the last of our 26 starters here for round 10 of the Lotus 49 World Cup. It is coming down to the wire. Michel Dudignan, again, is 2 points behind Ove Trangrade, our pole sitter, and doesn't have to beat him, but it'll certainly help him secure the championship, because it's this one and 2 to go. Still waiting on those last 2 drivers to get out there here at this classic course of Silverstone. Looks like now it's down to Daniel. And the engines are start to rev as the lights come up. Green flag is out. And Ove Trangrade gets a very good start off the line. Mick Claridge didn't look so good on the first part of the start, but picks it up. In fact, he's already looking around the outside as they come up to Copse, but Michel Dudignan gets a nose in down into that corner. Can't out-accelerate him off the line. And he is going to have to slot into third. Behind them in 4th place, Sergio Macias, just getting himself into line, and now they have to thin out as they get into the Maggots-Beckett sequence. Johan.
Single foul all the way down. Now Jamie Hall was side by side with Marco Kika going into that Maggots-Beckett section. But there's single foul. Mick Claridge up front, however, is putting pressure on Ove Trangrade. Ove Trangrade has to go to defensive towards Stowe. On the outside, Mick Claridge tries to break a little bit later. Side by side through the corner, Michel Dudignan tries to get the inside and overtake Mick Claridge that way. Mick Claridge and Ove Trangrade still side by side, and now Ove Trangrade has the disadvantage through the softened version of Phil here. Mick Claridge gets by him. Mick Claridge gets to P1. Ove Trangrade immediately being put under pressure by the French driver.
And critically, he keeps the Frenchman from taking advantage of being on the wrong side there through Vale. Now they swing through Abbey very fast in these cars. You can see they have to use up the entire track, and then they break for bridge. Now it's down into Priory. Again, Mick Claridge has no horse in this race other than to just get wins. He is not fighting for a championship, hence why he so quickly overtook Ove Trangrade. can see them backing up behind them, though. Looks like Sergio Macias lost 4th place as Rob Olenek has really found his feet lately. A bit of contact, though, between Macias and Nicola Kochi coming through Luffield. They get away with it for now as they complete the first lap.
These drivers are driving like it's the last lap of the race. And it's only the opening lap. Sergio Macias tried to move just a few corners before he lost that position on Michel Dudillon, but the French driver could fend that off. Let's see if Rob Olenek can put some pressure on the French driver, but look at the gap immediately between the top 3 and the rest.
Oh, it looks like Pavlovsky and Bruning had a bit of a coming together here in Kops. Sadro involved as well.
Yeah, Pavlovsky...
I was going to say it started with Pavlovsky, just like you were about to say, into Kops, and that just caused a bit of a chain reaction as everybody had to check up behind them.
Luckily for Marcellus Breuning, he can continue. That's of course big championship implications if he couldn't finish for that Formula 2 championship. But luckily for Marcellus Breuning, that blue car, he can continue and he's still driving around.
Yep, still plenty of spots to scalp as we come back. And Michel Dudillon, championship implications. He's overtaken Ove Trangarade and he's into 2nd. Ove down to 3rd and already under threat from Rob Olenek.
Yeah, Ove Trangarade lost it there in Stowe. He went too hot in that corner, couldn't get it slowed down. That opened a gap on the inside for Michel Dudillon. Look at the Norwegian, he's really almost overdriving a little bit at this moment. He's sliding a lot, basically in every corner at this point. He needs to keep it clean, he needs to keep it tidy to keep putting Michel Dudillon under pressure.
Absolutely, we're only on lap 2. Still a lot of racing left to go, so he's going to have a chance to try and get that back. He hasn't dropped off dramatically, at least, as they come around. Just a few tenths between them, a little less than half a second. Behind them, the fight is very hard between Sergio and Kochi, as actually Nicola gets a good run coming off of Kops, but just can't quite get a good enough one before they come into the S's of the Mackets-Beckett sequence.
Yeah, it's interesting to see who has Rob Olenek there almost loses it in the Mackets-Beckett section. And look at the gap that Sergio Macias immediately closes down as we see a battle for the lead. Michel Dudillon on the outside of Mick Claridge, the British driver, being forced on the inside towards Stowe. Side by side, Michel Dudillon is later on the braking, but Mick Claridge keeps it on the inside. Still, he has a nose in Michel Dudillon, but Mick Claridge is able to cut him off on the exit there.
Still having to defend as they come now into Vale. Very hard to pass into this fast entry as they come around Club now. Obviously, Michel Dudillon is looking for the victory. He's not just concerned about beating Ove. He wants to try and get as many points over him as possible. We don't need to go back to it, but I can report that Marcellus Breuning did have a spin in the first corner. He is able to get going once again, but he is well at the back of the field.
And the thing is, at this moment of the race, Mick Claridge is the best friend of Ove Trangarade, because as long as the British driver can keep the Frenchman behind him, Ove Trangarade has hopes to close down the gap and maybe try to get back that P2 position. Once Michel Dudillon gets by him, I think it's away and off he goes for the French driver, because he looks really quick at this point of the race.
A bit of irony. Oh, it's a bit of attempt to the outside defensive move by Mick Claridge down into Kops, but is that going to compromise his exit? It does a little bit, and Michel, we know how brave he is. He's going to try coming to the outside, but he thinks better of it, knowing that there's going to be better opportunities later on. Meanwhile, Nicola Kochi behind them has overtaken Sergio for 5th place. That train's still very close, and in fact, them battling has allowed the cars behind to close up. That is Dave Price and Marco Kika making the 4-car battle.
Yeah, more importantly as well, that Rob Olenek, because of that battle, has gapped Nicola Kochi. Rob Olenek is a little bit in no man's land. He's a little bit behind Ove Trangarade and in front of Kochi, driving around in P4.
Stay on this battle, but I was saying before, it's a bit ironic that right now Trangarade's best friend is the driver that overtook him immediately on the first lap for first, Mick Claridge. He really has to hope for him to slow him up, as now we come out of Club towards Abbey. Still Kochi leading the train. bridge can sometimes offer passing opportunities, but right now none of them close enough to one another to try to send one up the inside. And then things slow up dramatically into Priory, into the technical last bit of the course. Little look to the inside from Dave Price as he tries to get around Sergio Macias, but no dice there.
It's interesting to see how this battle is shaping up, because Sergio Macias was so quick in qualifying. He was the only one who could do a 140 as the top 3 did, but just race pace wise he just cannot have the same consistency as the people around him can have, because you can see Nicola Cocci, who was several tenths slower in qualifying, just driving away from him at this point of the race. And Sergio Macias is more looking in his rearview mirror and looking forward to try and get a position back.
I tell you what, though, they are gaining on Rob Olenek, who has been dropping off of the top 3. So we might now have 5 cars involved, because it looks like Nicola Cocci is on a tear and thinking a little bit more than a top 5. To come onto the hangar straight one more time, trying to reel them in. In fact, Cocci not only gaining on Olenek, but stretching away from Macias. Oh, and that's a blown engine from Sergio. At least I'm pretty sure. Was it?
No, I think he just outbraked himself, and there was a locking some tires, but there was a lot of smoke coming from his car.
That was a lot of smoke. I thought for sure that that's what it was. Yeah, it looks like he's still going. Let's take a look at the replay here. I'm going to watch from onboard Price. I'm sure Price probably was a little bit scared too, seeing that much smoke coming from the car ahead. I'm amazed he got the car woed up. Wow.
Yeah, and it's a shame from Dave Price that he couldn't profit from that, because he was putting the Iberian under pressure. That allowed him to almost get a move there for position up the field. Now, if we can go back to the leaders at this point of the race, because Michel de Leon is pushing. He was almost in the rear of Mick Claridge in Luffield. He lost a little bit of connection through Woodcott here. The French driver is really putting Mick Claridge under pressure in his home GP. Ooh, as Michel de Leon goes slow to the inside, did he maybe have a slowdown?
Yep, I'm going to guess Woodcote, because it is easy to cut inside those little cones that they have to the inside of there. We're going to try and check to see if that's the case.
Rob Olenek is off the track and Beckett's. Oh.
Yep, we're watching this replay right now. Yeah, he was pretty far inside. I'd say that's exactly where he got the slowdown. Well, that hands second place back to Ove Trangrade. Olenek did not lose the spot, although it gave time to Cocci with that off track. We're watching it one more time from on board. Yeah, half the car was definitely over the track limit that we saw there.
Just a little bit too much. Well, Rob Olenek, as I said, was behind him off on the grass in Beckett's. He could control the car on the grass, though. There was some impressive driving from the American. He kept it on track, and he keeps it in front of Nicola Cocci, most importantly. But at this point of the race, Ove Trangrade once again is in front of Michel de Leon. Let's see how quickly the French driver will be able to close down the gap towards the top 2 again.
Just off the track, back on after a little bit of a scare. Easy to do in these cars. As we come back live, don't have to go to it. Eventually, I would like to show this driver, but the number 13, Angelica Pawlowski, has been climbing back through the field after that early incident. Oh, and we've had another incident. Telmo Almiral, it seems, into Vale. Had a big off, and I'm not sure if he hit anything with that. I think he managed not to. Yeah, looks like we're not going to get the replay, unfortunately, but came... Whoa, who's this? Sadro with some problem. We've seen Muggleton a few times before. Just a little bit too quickly into Daniel Sadro. Did not expect the car to slow up that much. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Muggleton is a regular in the V8 supercars. Unfortunately, Daniel Sadro got a lot of damage from that. He's had to take to the pit lane. So you see the Midwest driver. No spare cars in this series. He's going to have to get a lot of repair for what is looking a very crabby car right now.
Yeah, I doubt that that car will come back to track without any repairs. He has to put his engineers to work at this point of the race. Now going back to the race up the front of the field, Michel de Jong is still chasing down over Trangrate and McLaren, but it seems like the Norwegian has found some extra pace because the gap between him and McLaren is closing down. Just a few car lengths between them. Over Trangrate needs to keep it clean. Once again here, Joe, he just keeps sliding through the corners, and that's not helping here on the exits.
Yep, this is not what he wants at the moment, and unfortunately, if these two start fighting too much, that will allow Michel to close in. Trangrade just doing all he can to try and get a bit of a points gap, to know that he usually doesn't have pace over the Frenchman. Today, though, he's not looking too bad. Behind them, we got a battle for fourth, and that might be over already because Nikola Kochi overtook Rob Olenek. Nicely done.
Yeah, well, what Nikola Kochi did tremendously there was he just put Rob Olenek under pressure. So we go to a replay of the overtake. It's such a way that Rob Olenek made a mistake here in Cops, and that just gave him immediately that P4 position. Rob Olenek tried to keep it side by side going towards Maggots and Baggots. He had to give way, so Rob Olenek drops down to P5.
Oh, but he's going to take a look at him if we come back live, and he almost ran into him. And that's erupted a battle behind them between Macias and Price. But he can't take advantage of it. Price just can't get past the Iberian.
Little hornet's nest here, it looks like, with Dave Price now putting a lot of pressure on the Sergio Massa. So he has a great run there. Out of Phil on the inside towards Abbey. Cannot keep it side by side there from this really quick left-hander. Single file once again. Michael Kika will be helped a little bit by this as well, who can close up the Finnish driver. All single file and all started with that overtaking maneuver from Nikola Kochi on Rob Olenek, who's now being put under pressure once again by another driver, Sergio Macias.
And it is so tight between them. Macias, you mentioned, Price back there, Kika and the train, and now Jamie Hall even. It is 5 cars in a row, all battling for P5 as they come across to finish another lap, almost halfway through this race now. And Sergio Macias, glad to see him so quickly adapting to this car. Clearly, that high I rating is not just due to being a specialist in the Lotus 79. Now into the Maggots-Beckett sequence they go. Very hard to pass into here. Got to set themselves up for the exit off of Chapel.
Well, we follow this battle just real quickly. I want to say that De Jong is slowly closing the gap towards McLaren. Last time around he was 3 tenths quicker than the British driver. So the gap between P1 and P3 is slowing down slightly. Angelika Pevslowski we see here on screen was fighting with Akidia Kono. Just made a pass there. He's really on her way to make a comeback in this race.
Had a little bit of an off earlier. And glad to see that Angelica has been getting position after position. It can be tough sometimes after those offs to recover. But up at the front, Sergio Macias still putting the pressure on Olenek. And actually, they are regaining on Nikola Kochi now that they've calmed down a little bit. So Kochi's could still find this position under threat, even though he made the pass work a little bit earlier.
Several driving lines there through Lovefield. Sergio Macias tries it slightly wider to get a good run on Rob Olenek. Doesn't make it stick though. Dave Price behind him cannot follow suit, but it looks like Jamie Hall is being dropped a little bit from this battle. Jamie Hall was driving around in P9 fighting with Michael Akidiakono before the race. Now they're all single file and quieting down a little bit before him. Jamie Hall is losing connection with the rest of the group.
Indeed, he's got to really hustle to try and get back into this, especially if a fight starts to erupt amongst those 4. That could be a good opportunity to gain positions. So, on to the hangar straight one more time. All of them in a line as one car popping out behind them. Not sure if that was for a pass. I think that was RC Diacono. Indeed, it was. Just losing a little bit of grip off the corner. Had to collect the car. Now through Vale and into Club. Nobody really finding any sort of advantage. Maybe this is just playing the waiting game for now after they saw that all the fighting was costing them risky opportunities to lose positions instead. Meanwhile, Michel Dudignon has now really caught up to the top two. It is half a second from first to second and from second to third.
And Ove Trangerate is still sliding around through Luffield. He doesn't get a good exit there. The Norwegian just has to stay calm because he's in a good position to at least consolidate his championship position. Actually, increase it a little bit to Michel de Jong as he almost went off the track there on the exit of Woodcut. He's getting a little bit too much grass there. It seems like he's losing connection, like he's watching too much in his rearview mirror, keeping track of what Michel de Jong is doing.
Do you think it's wiser for him to be looking backwards here, Johan, or should he really focus on Mick Claridge? Because really, I mean, his fight isn't with Mick so much. He just has to finish ahead of the Frenchman.
I mean, the thing that I would say is as long as you overtake Mick Claridge at this point of the race, that's actually a defensive move because you put another driver between you and Michel de Jong. So if I was in Ove's shoes, I would put maximum attack, maximum pressure on Mick Claridge just to make sure I have an extra buffer between myself and Michel.
Well, we'll see if the Norwegian can manage that. Like you pointed out, he is struggling to keep up with the number 3 car as they come around Club. They are now past halfway, or into halfway, I should say, of this race. And they are very much losing touch. In that one corner alone, it is stretched out to nearly a second. Meanwhile, there's a battle going on between Kika and Price as Kika is overtaking him. Or is he? Looks like Price is going to try and come back side by side through Abbey. It's very difficult to do that. Price is going to be on the outside, Kika on the inside, down into Bridge, but it switches back into Priory, and Kika just can't get the job done.
Wow, there was almost great anticipation of Marco Kika to anticipate on the mistake of Dave Price before him, who went extremely wide through Club, almost actually threw his car into a wall. Just kept it out of it and kept up the speed to continue driving there. P11 behind him, there's a battle going on. Gary Teals being put under pressure by Billy Bob Wright. Going through Woodcut now. It seems like Billy Bob Wright had a little bit more momentum there, but he had to check up to avoid hitting Gary Teal. Towards Cops, still behind them. He cannot make a move at this point.
These are two veterans of this series, and to tell you how much it's not just drivers filling the field, it is talent coming in. These are two that are usually fighting for podiums in this series, and yet here they are just trying to get a top 10. That's how much talent has come in as we ride on board with Billy Bob Wright, trying to get the power down. Car squirming underneath them as they stretch onto the hangar straight, and here he's got a great opportunity. Looks to the inside, down into this next corner, and it looks like he's able to get to the inside. Nice and clean pass on Gary Teal.
P2, Michel de Jong is putting Ove Trangerate under pressure there through Abbey. Ove Trangerate slides through it and that gives Michel de Jong a chance. Now the corner is inside. The French driver stays there, but Ove Trangerate tries to come back. He actually does it on the inside now towards Brooklands. Oh, Michel de Jong tries the up and under. Beautiful driving by both drivers here. Michel de Jong just edges ahead, but he's on the outside of Luffield. This is a very long corner. That means that Ove Trangerate has a lot less distance to cover. You need a good exit here out of Luffield. Get your speed up to try and move side by side through Woodcut. This is the corner where Michel de Jong had the slow down early in the race. He cannot keep the momentum up, and it's Ove Trangerate back to P2.
Wow, what a defense from Ove Trangerate. The Norwegian is not willing to give this championship up. Still, he is being hounded at every turn. Michel trying to go around the outside into Maggots and Beckett's, but just doesn't have the speed. Is this going to force Ove off? It does. He tries to come back on track, and he's given a little bit of space. I'm not sure if that's Michel just preserving the car or trying to play fair. He's going to get another chance at it as he tries to get the power down off of the hangar straight, and he is fully ahead before they get to the next corner.
Ove Trangerate tries to get back, but he doesn't have the momentum after that off track in the Beckett section, so he cannot put it side by side here in Stowe. He needs a good run. He takes a slightly wider line to keep more momentum, more speed out of the corner as they go through Phil here. As you can see on screen that the Norwegian immediately loses several car lengths, and De Jong has that position now. And let's see, in the meantime, Mick Claridge has driven away from both these drivers. The gap between Michel and Mick is almost 4 seconds at this point. So Michel Dunion really has to look in his rearview mirror now, look at Overtrangerate and try to keep the Norwegian behind him. Overtrangerate hits the grass there, under braking, almost losing it around. Great car control from the Scandinavian there to not crash his car and really throw away his championship hopes.
Let's watch that one again. It's rare that you can hold on to the car in that sort of situation. The Scandinavian, just as you said, just barely dipped his wheel. And if anything, almost helped him through the corner a little bit faster as Ove just put a big bit of steering lock, opposite lock into it and kept the car going. Paul Foster, though, has just had a big off into Priory. That was all by himself. He gets it going once again.
We go to a replay of that incident. You can see him here entering the section and under braking just a little bit too much speed. He tries to save it, but then once the tires grip again, he's steering to the right, he loses car, and he loses also 1 or 2 positions in the gravel.
So that puts him down to 16th and promotes Angelika Pawlowski up into 15th. So still more positions yet to go for Angelika. Up ahead is the number 16 of Philippe Urquhart and only 3 seconds ahead. So that is still doable. Bad news for Ove Trangaré, though. It is now 7/10 between himself and Michel Dudignon, losing a little bit of touch to the number 2 car.
Yeah, but what's bad for Ove Trangaré as well is that Michel Dudignon is just slowly closing the gap towards Mick Claridge. It's not going very quickly. It's a few tenths this lap alone, but if Michel Dudignon can keep up this pace, just keep closing down the gap to Mick Claridge, if he actually gets P1, that will be a really big blow to Ove Trangaré's title hopes for this season.
To what mentioned Philippe Urquhart, well, he's not looking behind, he's looking ahead, because that's David Rossi ahead of him right now. This is for 13th position. Very close fight here in the mid-pack, and you can see Rossi even going defensive into Bridge because of it. Now into Priory they go, into the technical last bit of the circuit. And Philippe's got to be careful, because if he battles too much, that's going to give Angelika a whole handful of pace. Oh, big slide into Woodcote, and that's certainly going to help Angelika close in. In fact, lost a lot of time up to David Rossi, and now Philippe Urquhart really needs to be looking in the mirrors.
Yeah, 100%, but I think that Philippe Urquhart has the speed to maybe put David Rossi under pressure once again. And just real quickly, David Rossi is driving P13 in this race, but at the same time he is driving in first place of the Formula 2 Championship. He once again is doing a tremendous job of closing down the deficit he has to Marcellus Breuning and really go for the title in that category.
So down through Maggots-Beckett sequence they go. Let's see if anybody gets a run over the other. Onto the hanger straight. Urquhart struggling a lot. And now here comes Angelika Pawlowski with a monster run down to the inside. Clearly outbrakes Philip. And that's going to be now 14th for the number 13 car.
Yeah, I almost think that Philippe Urquhart gave that position away with how early he braked for that corner there. Angelika is gaining 1 position, and I think that it won't be long before she puts David Rossi under pressure for P13 overall.
Let's jump a little bit farther forward, because we've still got Rob Olenek trying to fend off Sergio Macias and Dave Price. He may still be close to Kochi, but Kochi's not been under threat from the Club West driver for a while. Excuse me, the New England driver for quite a while. As they come through Woodcote. And we are now down to 5 laps to go for these guys.
Yeah, it's Sergio Macias putting pressure on Rob Olenek there through Copse. Of course, there's not a really long line here towards the Maggots and Beckett section. Single file. They're a little bit less close than they were a few laps ago, and that has helped Nicola Cocci. I think Nicola Cocci has just found a little bit extra pace in the final parts of the race. Look at the gap between him and Rob Olenek. He's driving away from the rest of the group. Little bit by little bit, and it seems like Rob Olenek is now the first driver in that group with Macias and Price behind him. Behind them as well, Marco Kika is fending off Marco Akidiakona for P8, that is. Marco has really found pace as well in the latter parts of the race. He has already passed Jamie Hall. He's really putting pressure on the Finnish driver now as well.
On screen, we just saw the pass from Pawlowski over Rossi. Boy, in one lap, 2 positions, Angelica has got a fire lit under them. And that's now P13 for car 13. It's going to be a lot harder to get the next car, though. It is Gary Thiel in at 12th. The number 7 is a whole 16 seconds ahead. Still a fantastic effort by Angelica to come back forward. As we now look at Gary Thiel, who's still battling with Billy Bob Wright for that 11th spot.
Yeah, very close between both of them. Let's see, Gary Thiel looks a little bit quicker, especially through this infield section here of Brookfields. The exit there of Lovefield. Both drivers squirming a little bit once they try to get all those horsepower down for throttle. Woodcourt, oh, Gary Thiel is having a good run there. Tries a little look on the inside, but Big Bob just defends it off. Cannot put it side by side there through Cops.
Thiel just sliding his way through Cops, unfortunately, and can't quite do anything with it. Up ahead of them, boy, things are fierce as well between Kika and RC Diacono. We mentioned that a little bit earlier, and Marco doing everything he can to try to peel this spot away from the Finn.
And Marco had a great run last time around in Spa, getting his first podium in the Lotus 49 Championship. Well, it doesn't look like he will get a podium today, but he's really trying to finish on a high here, and he's doing everything he can to put Marco Kika under pressure. He took a little look there on the inside of Stowe. Couldn't keep it side by side though, but look how close he is here through Phil, through Club. The Finnish driver really is looking only behind him at this point of the race.
Yeah, don't blame him. It's a whole 3.5 seconds up to Dave Price, so he doesn't have much ahead of him to worry about. Still fending them off now as they come down through Bridge. Oh, big slide from Marco. He gathers the car together, and does he? Oh my goodness,
wow.
He had to catch it about 5 times, and unfortunately this has allowed Jamie Hall to sneak to the inside. Now as they come to Brooklands, and he gets it done. But still, my hat goes off to Marco RC Diacono. How many times did we think that thing was gone?
I've seen drift races less sideways than that. What a car control from the Italian here. Just keeping it sliding, and keeping it pointing straight as well. We see it here on board of Jamie Hall. Wow!
Poor Jamie Hall had to try and pick a side about 12 times as well to try and figure out which way is he gonna spin off. Still managed to get the position off of him. Great job by both drivers in that situation. Now down to 3 laps to go. Time is running out.
Yeah, if we go back to the front of the field, Mick Claridge is losing ground to Michel de Leon, but is going very slowly. Last time around it was 0.4 of a second. With 3 laps to go, that means that Michel de Leon will be 1.5 seconds short as they go over the line. Meanwhile, in P5, Rob Olenek is fighting more and more heavily with Sergio Macias behind him. Sergio tried to move there in Stowe last time around, couldn't make it stick, but the Iberian driver is really on the move for that top 5 position.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain that the Brit is appropriately just minding the gap there up front in the lead, so I'm not too worried about that gap. Back to Michel Dudignon, his little lockup down into Bridge. We watch Rob Olenek continue to try to fend off Sergio Macias. None of them able to hit the apex of all 3 of those cars in a fight. Still Dave Price behind them, managing to make this a 3-way battle. As they now come through Luffield, all of them going to have to try and get the power down and then work their way through Woodcote. All going to stretch apart from each other, though, completing yet another lap, down to 2 laps to go. As up at the top, you can see Michel Dudignon, now that he is clear, has set the fastest lap of the race, is really doing all he can to try to reel in Claridge.
Just to reiterate on what we just saw on the exit of Leffitt, you can see how quick Sergio Macias is. And I think that he's really being held up by Rob Olenek, because on the exit, Dave Price was just falling back, while Sergio Macias stayed right in the gearbox of Rob Olenek all the way towards Cops. He is really looking for a way past, but he cannot find it at this point. Rob Olenek is really defending really well so far. He's looking now under a lot of pressure. Looks a little bit on the inside. Keeps in the middle of the road. Sergio Massa sends it on the outside. Very late braking. Almost loses it. Locks up the wheels several times. Dave Price gets a chance because of that on the inside. Almost makes contact there, but the Iberian driver stays in front. Wow.
Good heads up by everybody in that situation. Nobody ran into one another when that could have gone oh so wrong. Still, I'm sure Price disappointed that he isn't able to take the position away. This is all still a battle for 5th, even though Macias and Price battling for 6th. We're going to get the white flag this time by from our leader. There he is, Mick Claridge, 2.5 seconds over Michel Dudignon. Unless Mick makes a mistake, I don't think he's going to hand this one away.
We just missed it, but Dave Price got by Sergio Massa there. He tried a really courageous move on the inside of Brooklands. Just send it on the inside, and Sergio Massa just got scared, I think, trying to avoid Dave Price. You can see it here in the replay, sending it on the inside. It was very loose, and Dave Price actually got that position, and he is now to P6.
Well, that certainly is not over yet. I'm not sure that Sergio is going to take that one lane down. They come out of Copse now, heading up to Maggots and Beckett's. And you can see him closing in. Oh, but a little bit too hot into the first part of these S's. That could cost him. He's really got to focus on the exit of this corner. Not missing anything up with the top 3. Will go to the finish when Claridge gets to the end, and it's just not good enough as they head towards Stowe.
Yeah, the gap is too big for Sergio Massa to try and move here. Although on the brake he immediately closes it. You can see the smoke just squirming away under his tires, trying to get it slowed down. It actually seems to work for him, because look at the gap between the 2 cars. He makes a mistake though in field, goes very wide, a little bit too much speed. Of course the corner is flattened out, but you still need to brake there, and look at that, he immediately loses several car lengths. And that loses him all the opportunity to try and move in the infield section.
Sergio is going to be in trouble when they introduce flat spots. But Mick Claridge is not in trouble whatsoever, because he's coming around Luffield. One more corner to go in the form of Woodcote. It's only his 2nd win of the season, but I'm sure this one feels good on home territory for Mick Claridge, winning today in the Lotus 49 World Cup. Michel Dudignon is going to take the championship lead, finishing in 2nd, and Ove Trangrade a disappointing 3rd.
Yeah, Nicola Cocci behind him comes home in P4 with Rob Olenek closing down the top 5, but in P8 it's still a battle going on through the last corner, which is being won by Marco Kika. He was being put under pressure by Jamie Hall behind him. Jamie couldn't find a way past, and Jamie has to settle for P9 in his home Grand Prix.
So, as the rest of the cars stream across, we've got a little bit of battle down for 17th. Antonio Arce Diacono and Alex Cameron. Haven't really mentioned Cameron since the grid, I don't think. He's trying to hold on to 16th as the Italian doing all he can to try and pry it away. He's very close, but it's going to have to take something wild to get around him through this slow final section. As long as Alex is smooth on the power, and indeed he is, he's going to take this 16th spot across the line. That's going to be it for now, but we're not done with the broadcast. We'll come back with the official results, as well as driver interviews on screen. You're going to see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Stick around, because we'll be back. Welcome back to Silverstone Circuit. We just watched round 10 of the Lotus 49 World Cup, and we saw another change for the lead and the points. But the change for the top position happened early on in the race. Mick Claridge got to the front from second on the first lap, and he didn't look back from there. He took the win, even though he's been run down by Michel Dudignon. Michel did go from third to second, and he overtook his championship rival, Ove Trangrade. That gives Michel the points lead. Trangrade finishing third, just ahead of Nicola Kochi, who managed to get fourth, just ahead of Rob Olenek. This is one of the best battles we saw all race. Olenek ahead of Price in sixth, ahead of Sergio Macias in seventh. All three of those drivers really gave us quite a tit-for-tat battle. Marco Kika finished eighth behind them. He was in it for a little bit, but had a battle with Jamie Hall back there in ninth place. And then the top 10, Johan, were rounded out by Marco Arcidiacono.
First driver outside of it is Billy Bob Wright, who wins one position and finishes P11. Gary Thiel comes home in P12, just in front of Angelica Pavlovsky, who really provided a lot of excitement in this race. David Rossi comes home in P14, winning the race in the Formula 2 Championship today after battling hard with several drivers, including Philippe Urquhart just behind him. Paul Foster is classified in P16, just in front of Alex Cameron, who had a great run this race. He had both his qualifying laps invalidated, but had to start from last position, but gained 9 in the race, comes home in P17. Antonino Arcidiacono comes home in P18, just in front of Simon J. Shaw and Marcellus Breuning in P20.
Telmo Almiral finished 21st with Francisco Gutierrez 22nd. Last car on the lead lap. Muggo gets 23rd, unfortunately. I think he retired a little early with damage to his car after he came back out and tried to get some laps in. Scott Green was 24th with Daniel Sadro 25th, and Daniel Blackman did not start the race. So with that, we have our winner waiting to talk to us, Mick Claridge. Let's bring the UK&I driver in and see how he thought about that one. Because, Mick, you started on the front row, but you wasted no time overtaking Ove.
Oh, hi, Joe. Yeah, that was quite scary, really. I don't mind telling you, I've been really struggling on cold tyres at the start of these races. I mean, you've seen it in Imola, I saw last week as well. Rouge was all over the place, and I thought, oh no, not again, this is going to go bad, because we was both on the limit there. And it was tough. That pass was real tough, It's really hard to see what's going on with a Rift as well, I mean, I love them and everything, but when you're side by side, it's impossible for me,
Yeah, I can imagine. So was there extra incentive with this being home territory to get more practice in to try to get this win?
Do you know what? It was really funny because last week when I had such a rubbish race at Spa, got disconnected and everything, I was moaning to Michel saying, I've had enough, and really crying about it, And then he said, yeah, but you're really fast at Silverstone. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm rubbish at Silverstone as well. They've got no good tracks coming up, And then I thought, oh, hold on a minute, no, I'm not too bad at Silverstone. So I sort of changed my mind. And then as soon as I tried to set up the car for the kink, on the front straight there, I used the Interlagos set, and everything just worked from there, So no, it wasn't a special race because it's a home track. It's just one that I do pretty well at. So yeah, I'm always like really trying to fight for the win there,
You certainly showed well, but I have to ask, were you aware of the big battle happening behind you between Michel and Ove? And do you think that was key to your victory here today? If they hadn't a battle, do you think Michel would have run you down?
He would have got closer, yeah. I mean, I was when I saw him fighting, I just thought, oh yeah, that's it, just what I need, because Ove was quick as well today, and so I was real happy when I saw the gap just. I mean, I couldn't even see him. I went through the complex, and after that, I couldn't even see him at the end of the straight. So I was thinking, yeah, that's cool. And then I just thought, right. And then I saw Michel get past, and I thought, okay, no worries. And still got a huge gap. And I just thought, if I stick to like mid-40s, sort of low mid-40s, I'll be all right. And because it's so easy to crash here, and if you crash, it's always a race-ending one. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to win it, and try and just win it safely.
Well, it all worked out in the end. Congratulations on win number 2 this season, and hope to see you in the final 2 rounds, even if you don't like them.
No, it's not that I don't like them. It's just I'm not that fast at either track. But yeah, I'll be there fighting, mate. See you later. Cheers, Joe.
That was Mick Claridge, our winner here today. And I believe Johan is caught up with fourth place finisher Nicola Kochi.
Yeah, Nicola, welcome to the booth. Congratulations with P4. Now, you really made a difference today in two great overtaking maneuvers on Sergio Macias, on Rob Olenek. Those were some great moves out there, man.
Yeah, thank you guys, and thank you for for what you said. And for me, it was even a little bit more special because I'm coming from the Lotus 79, and there Sergio is like a monster. I could never ever think even to overtake him in any way, but today I've done it, and I'm so proud of me.
Well, very good. Well, just going back to that overtaking maneuver, it was in the infield section at Brooklands. You just completely caught him off guard, it almost seemed like, the way you just snuck on his inside and passed him. Do you think the experience of racing with him in the Lotus 79 actually helped you in this race to get by him?
Well, I knew that it was, he is crazy fast, and I can only guess that he didn't had enough practice on the Lotus 49 to be caught on without the guard like that. But I think it was just a little bit like overshooting the braking point after the under the bridge, and once you got wide there, you cannot take the next corner good, because you are forced to be on the outside, and if you are doing the opposite way, like I did, it was I was in the perfect spot to pass him on the inside, and at that moment you can you have nothing to do.
Exactly, where you got by him in the end, and then you put Rob Olenek under pressure. It was really difficult, it almost seems like, at some points on the race to make an overtaking move stick, and you actually got by him because you put him under so much pressure that he made a mistake in Cop's corner. Was that really difficult to actually get by here, or was it just, was it doable? Was it difficult to get by drivers?
Well, honestly, I think that I was only positioning myself on the inside to get a little bit of pressure. But I think that in that occasion, Rob did a little bit of looked too much on the mirror, and he didn't realize he was overshooting the turning point there. And so yeah, I just passed by. But I think he was a little bit distracted by me behind.
Very good. Well, you come home in P4 at the end. Congratulations with that. And I hope to see you again next week.
Okay, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
That was Nicola Kochi coming home in P4. And in the meantime, Joe, you've caught up with P5, Rob Olenek.
Exactly. And, well, he may have been overtaken by Nicola Kochi, but that certainly seemed to steal his resolve, because, Rob, once the Italian got by you, you fended off Dave Price, you fended off Sergio Macias, you fended off all comers.
Yeah, it was tough out there today. The beginning of the race, I felt really good, and I felt like I could almost keep up with the guys up front. And then one little mistake somewhere got me not feeling as confident, and then it was defend mode. It's tough to pass here. It's really tough to pass. So I was just making sure I got good exits out of the important corners. But yeah, Nicholas still got by. I mean, little mistake, and that's all it takes.
Well, it was the lesson that taught you well, it seems. It may be hard to pass here, but you're going to have two tracks with very, very long laps coming up in the final two rounds, Le Mans and Nürburgring. I mean, what are your thoughts going towards those? Because this will be your first time racing them in the Lotus 49, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm looking forward to both of them a lot. Le Mans is going to be really unique. I know that I think we're running the historic layout, and I think even that slight bend going down the Muslin Straight is really sketchy. I think it's going to be a really fun packed battle, just to be a fun week of racing. The Nordschleife, I just love that track, so I think it's just going to be a fun week practicing and learning it in the car, and then it's probably going to be a really fun race. It's going to be survive, I think, there. I mean, it really is. Don't make a bad mistake and you probably do well.
Well, we really have to have the eye of the tiger, I suppose, on those then. But you did manage a top 5 here today after starting in 5th. It seems like you're adapting well to this car at this point. I mean, is it a toss up now between Lotus 49 and the Camel cars? On which is your favorite?
I actually like driving the 49 the most right now. I don't know what it is about the car. It's a classic, the way you're sliding it around, and it's still newer to me too. So it's really fun trying to master a really difficult car to drive. I'm loving it. I still love Camel. I'm gonna just keep doing. I'm gonna do the 79 too next season. I'm gonna try and just run all 3. Won't get as much practice in each one, but I'm having a ton of fun driving all these historic cars.
We're just going to have to start calling you Mr. Vintage. So awesome job today. Awesome job this season. And glad that you're enjoying the 49, sir.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
That was Rob Olenek, 5th place finisher here today, and it's going to close us up. Of course, we're going to give a big thank you to the entire Lotus 49 community for coming back for another season here on the GSRC, and to iRacing for bringing us on to the iRacing Esports Network. Once again, I hope you subscribe, because if you didn't enjoy that, man, you must not have a pulse, because that was some great stuff out there by all of our drivers here in this classic machinery. We also want to thank the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Johan, Amjad, and Dougie, as well to our spotter, Wesley Wickens, who is behind the scenes helping feed us information. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media at GSR Channel on Twitter. Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Graham. Head on over to our page, our YouTube page. There's also another big red subscribe button. Make sure and hit that. You won't miss a moment on the GSRC. As we mentioned, we're going to Le Mans, and it's going to be the old version without the chicanes. So that is going to be high speeds these cars reach down there. That'll be Saturday, November 24th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.